Go the lightning round. So for those that I've not had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Richard Flores. I lead our marketing and technology practice at Ensera. And my team is responsible for a lot of things related to lighting up experiences using technology. You think CDP implementation, consulting, journey orchestration, campaign management, lighting up websites and experiences like preference centers like Kelly and Angie talked about, are a lot of things that my team is disciplined in terms of hands-on keyboard work delivering for customers. One thing I failed to mention is email. That's a big portion of our marketing technology practice. And with that, it's important to know that there's strategies that come along with implementing good email. However, I think it's important that we all kind of level set on kind of the current state of the channel, if you will. Looking at an article that was published in the Wall Street Journal in 2009, email was on decline. It was a channel that was being overtaken by social apps like Snapchat and other platforms that were launching at the time, forwarding to 2019, where email was a new prominent channel that was up and coming and emerging in the space. To last year, email was the most email had been sent on any given day on Black Friday last year. So obviously, email is not going anywhere. And to quote someone's direct mail quote, email's not dead either. But that being said, it's highly commoditized. So knowing that you have to implement tactics to separate yourself from the crowded area of your inbox, we're putting together what we're calling the 4 Bs of email. Being fresh and personal, being accessible, being local, and being consistent and new. So from being a fresh and personal perspective, I've got an example of an email. At face value, it's a static email where you've got interactivity, but the one that I want to call out is it's somewhat responsive to the clicks that are happening within the communication. There's instant feedback that's being provided to the individual, and as they scroll through that communication, the content actually personalizes itself in real time based on those selections. So whether it's a peach summer drink or a fry option in this particular example, the consumer never had to leave the communication to have that fresh and personal experience. Our client, T. Marzetti. So when you sign up for email, you're positioned with a welcome series. You're asked a series of questions: what's your preferred protein? What's your favorite day to go shopping, et cetera. And we collect that information as part of that welcome series. If you answer those questions, you will never get asked that content block ever again. The concept of understanding that we know what you've given us and actioning on it immediately is a benefit of having a connected system like Kelly talked about in the preference center. So understanding that putting information out there to collect and then actioning on it as soon as technically possible keeps the opportunity of being fresh with some of the examples we showed of how to present that, but also being personal in how you present that back to the individual in subsequent touch points. Being accessible. So we all often talk about ADA compliance, colors, et cetera. I'm going to stay away from that in terms of accessibility here, but more in the concept of can you make your content available or make it accessible? A lot of us have different lines of work, B2C, B2B, but email distribution is a big deal. Apple has the lion's share of kind of rendering of email, but if you're a B2B customer, you may be rendering emails in Outlook, right? And so do you actually know the makeup of your audience, and are you designing communications to render appropriately in those devices? So we leverage technology like Litmus and others to identify what is the distribution makeup of your audience. What should I be developing emails to render appropriately based on your business? And then, authentication, so SPF, DKIM, those are all mechanisms that we make sure that we're not bad actors and emails get delivered. But if you put an accessibility tinge on it, authentications like BIMI, which is brand indicators for message identification, it allows brands to display their logo before you even open the email. So understanding that before the customer has actually interacted with that communication, you've shown authenticity, you've shown validity to that correspondence to your customer, so they feel safe to interact with that campaign. Similarly with Gmail's promotion tab, so they have an annotation capability where you see on the Spectrum example, we're showing a banner of 60% off before anyone's even gone into the email, right? So leveraging any and all real estate you have when you're interacting with a consumer allows you to be accessible, whether you're in that space or whether you're in the inbox or just listing the emails that are listed on the example here. And conversely, on the right side, you'll see that there is no BIMI authentication. there is no kind of logo. And so it separates a little bit when you're looking at ways to separate yourself from that cluttered inbox. Third, being local. So in this example, this is actually a slider so the consumer can actually interact through the slider, but it's bringing that local flavor to your campaign. So whether it's including a photo of a store operator or a local sales associate, connecting that potential national campaign to your local entity can create a lot of relevance in that campaign. Capital One indicated 75% of all shopping happens locally. And so with all the clutter that's in your inbox, creating that relationship to a local entity, I think can raise your email capability over some of the competitors. And then our friends at Dave & Buster's, they just recently launched the Store of the Future, and I'm in the Dallas area, so I received communications explicit to that. Obviously, there's an exclusivity concept of getting a communication to your local vicinity. But the one thing I think that's important is they actually include a local component in every campaign they send. So in every email, there's a store locator that, based on your device and technology in use, will either show your preferred store or any location that's really close to that device when you open it. And so constantly having that local banner with store hours, the store locator map, again, brings that local connection to every campaign that they send. Being consistent and new. This is kind of an oxymoron, but the concept being, let me take that step back. So if you've ever gone to an email kind of conversation with NCRE, we talk about design systems all the time. And that's nothing more than a branded component put together in a configuration, which we call a module, that then can be used in templates. And that cascades over email, web, mobile, et cetera. But the concept of creating consistent interaction with your consumers to where they understand the brand, they understand your color scheme, they know what button colors you're using, it makes it familiar for them to not have to worry about trying to figure out how to interact with your communication. 51% of consumers will delete an email within 2 seconds. So you have 2 seconds to show them something new, but familiar enough that they know the brand that's communicating that to you. And with that consistency, you have the opportunity to test. Right? We heard with Crystal about using AI to test some of these components, but you can't do that with just letting it free. Right? So when you've established that consistency, both in design, in your cadence or whatnot, it can allow you to use the technology that may be out of the box and some of the technology you guys use to implement something new. So keeping your brand in a position that's consistent and familiar, but introducing new aspects, whether that's cadence, again, color schemes, a different type of module, will keep it consistent and new. So to wrap that up, the framework to your strategy, first, be fresh and personal. Take a look at your tactics and evaluate how personal they are. Is there a new and fresh way that you can collect and display that content? Being accessible. Are you presently presenting email in a way that maximizes your reach? Third, be local. Are you where your customers are? Can you infuse a local aspect to your current tactics? And 4, be consistent and new. Are you familiar enough with your customer that they recognize you? What are some ways that you can regenerate or re-energize your base, but stay familiar? And with that, I'll close out.